So as EPR regulations roll out across North America and tighten in Europe, we're all asking the same question. Is your packaging actually recyclable? Not technically recyclable or recyclable in theory, but recyclable in systems that exist today. What's the challenge? Most packaging isn't what it appears. That paper cup, it's a complex multi-material structure. That recyclable symbol, it might be a code 84, which tells you almost nothing about actual end-of-life processing. Under EPR, we're responsible for knowing exactly what materials we're putting into the market, how they'll be sorted, and what happens when they hit the MRF. Let me show you what I mean.
Okay, so I just picked up this coffee at a gas station in Germany, and it's paper. It's like a paper cup with a sticker partially around the container with the nutrition facts, and you shake it and then you pull the container label, and I think it's got to be lined with plastic. I think this is, yep, that's a thick plastic film. I don't know, feels like a mil and a half. All right, I'll take it apart later.
So here's what we just saw, a paper coffee can that's actually a multi-layer composite. And this is where EPR compliance gets complicated. When we submit our packaging data to a PRO, a producer responsibility organization, CAA in the US, we need to report accurate material composition, not just paperboard. We need to know that metallized film layer, the barrier coating, the adhesive holding it all together, and the weights of all the different layers. Whether it's designed for sortability in existing infrastructure, because the reality is most MRFs can't separate these materials. It's just too costly and complicated. They're either rejected as contamination and landfilled, or they end up with other paper bales, decreasing the value of the paper. Under EPR, this complex, non-recyclable structures cost more. But more importantly, it impacts our claims. If we're marketing this as sustainable or recyclable, we need to be able to defend that claim. Let's tear this thing apart and see exactly what we're dealing with.
Okay, here's the paper coffee can I said I would take apart. Lots of layers. The top has that film layer on the inside, then a metallized layer, a metallized film layer, then paper, then more film on top of that. The inside has a thinner metallized film, a couple layers of paper. Sometimes people are really surprised when they open paper-based containers and find a layer of plastic. Paper is the paper, like that's why they make good napkins. They soak up liquids. So, for example, cartons of ice cream, the paper cartons aren't recyclable because it's paper, so it has to be coated on the inside and the outside with plastic. So there was a sticker. I thought maybe it was just blank underneath, but it turns out that there's different languages underneath the sticker. So they're, labeling for every region they sell. And I found this one's interesting too. Maybe some of my EU people can weigh in. This is a recycling symbol 84. I don't know what that is. It's a big number. Probably some kind of complex recycling process like Tetra Pak, where it takes more energy to recycle it than it just doesn't make any sense to recycle some of these complex structures due to the fact that there's so much energy involved and you don't get pure products process even if you do recycle. So that's the recap of the paper coffee can.
5 distinct layers: metallized film, paper, barrier coatings, and outer laminations, and a recycling code 84, which, as I suspect, indicates a complex composite that requires specialized processing. So what does this mean for EPR compliance? Well, first, material complexity is a liability. Every additional layer, every lamination, every coating reduces recyclability and increases your EPR fees. So design for disassembly isn't just good practice, it's becoming a regulatory requirement. Second, recyclable is no longer subjective. EPR regulations are increasingly defining recyclability, collection, and reprocessing rates. If it can't be recycled in the systems that exist in your market, you can't call it recyclable. Third, producer responsibility means knowing your supply chain. You can't just spec paperboard can and call it done. You need to know your converter's exact building materials because you're responsible for reporting that under EPR. So what's the good news? This is fixable. Monomaterial solutions exist, truly recyclable barriers exist, but it requires intentional design decisions up front, aligning your business team with the technical team and making decisions based on that. Because in EPR world, packaging looks sustainable isn't just good enough anymore. It has to be sustainable, verifiable, measurably, and in the infrastructure that actually exists today. And that starts with understanding exactly where you're putting your materials into the market.